Why were so many of the airports in this nation allowed to get so run down and overcrowded for so many years?
Well, I don't know if that's an accurate statement. Remember, we have 4,000 airports in America, commercial and non-commercial. Yet China's building them, but they're building where they absolutely have nothing. So I think we haven't really let them down, but a place like LaGuardia, we have shopping malls bigger than that place. Well, LaGuardia was built as a wonder of the world in 1939. It was rebuilt in the 60s as a really world-class airport. But, you know, back then in the 1960s, the biggest airplane might have been about 110 seats. Today, the average airplane size is, close to double that. So that's where we kind of fell behind the curve. But it's because, it's hard to rebuild Kennedy Airport. It's hard to rebuild Los Angeles.
Part of the reason is they're kind of landlocked airports. They've got infrastructure that's built up all around them. So what do you do in a situation like that? Do you have to scrap it and start over, or are the investments that we're seeing right now in LaGuardia and LAX actually going to be things that make a huge difference? What will that mean for passengers?
Well, having basically grown up and worked at LaGuardia, what they've done with that airport is not a construction project, it's magic to make it what it is today. It's just amazing. But it's that kind of engineering feat that we need to keep going with. O'Hare is adding more in Chicago, San Francisco. So it's always a process to look at how do you move more people on bigger airplanes through an airport. And honestly, I don't criticize America. We built our airport system back in the 40s and 50s, and now we have to rebuild it. But we did the right thing back then.
We have so many people who are traveling these days. That in itself is something to brag about. But how do we keep up with that growing passenger demand and make sure that things are safe, that things are efficient? How do we do it?
Well, I think we're moving in the right direction. Air traffic in America is going to grow about 25% over the next 10 years. Today, an airport director, his job is not to have gates leased, it's to have the gates fully utilized. And there was a lot of room to go on that.
The better and more efficient airports, is that going to bring in more competition? Will the big guys just get bigger when it comes to the airlines themselves?
Well, I mean, the airline economics and airport economics they're related, but building a new airport does not create new airlines necessarily. It has to do with the consumer and where they want to go and what the airline offers. So it's always great to have an airport that's more efficient for the airline, because that helps the airline maybe want to fly there a little bit more. But in terms of it attracting a lot more competition, there's a whole other set of dynamics that drive that.
Mike, most of what we've talked about have been the big airports, the ones that deal with so much traffic. What about some of the airports in smaller cities? How do we get more investment in those sorts of airports? Is there a need for a federal push, or can that be done the same way?
Well, one of the things we have to get rid of is this nonsense. We have to have air service at every local airport. That's a waste of money. A place like Muskegon, which is a wonderful place, they got wonderful air service. It's called Grand Rapids. We've got to go to the point of, an hour away to get to an airport is not a bad thing. Or a place like Bloomington, Illinois, that just built a brand new airport, and that's become a regional airport.
An hour away to get to your airport. But actually, I am almost an hour away, but that seems like an awful lot, Mike.
Well, if you live in Syosset, Long Island, no one's screaming and yelling about the hour to get to LaGuardia. But the fact is, that's how you get air service. A place like Topeka, it's never going to be able to support enough air service locally to keep the consumer away from Kansas City. We got to tumble to that and stop throwing money at small airport service in many cases the consumer won't use.